Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Germany once again for the first time in what feels like a good little while. Now we're going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. These guys are a very new addition to their local beer scene, and they apparently do some really quite nice beers actually. These guys are one of the new wave of German craft breweries, I guess we could say. But the beer itself is a style that I very much enjoy, one that has been making a little bit of a comeback in recent times, I have to say, and I'm very pleased about that. But always cool to try some of these new wave German, American style craft breweries, and they are doing some very good stuff generally speaking. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Berlin, the capital. We're going to go to Friedrichshain to be specific, which is just to the east of the central part of the city, and we're going to have a look at my first beer from Protokoll Brewery. So this particular beer is called Atomic Number. It comes in at 6% ABV, and this one is a West Coast IPA. So yeah, this is another beer that I picked up at Beer Hive Amar in Copenhagen. It was just a random one, and the main reason that I got this was because I didn't recognise the brewery, and when I saw it was German, I thought, you know, this would be quite cool to have a little look at this one. But this apparently is the 18th recipe that Protokoll have done, and yeah, the name of this one caught my eye as well. I mean, I studied for my master's degree in chemistry, and this one's called Atomic Number, so yeah, I thought that was pretty damn cool. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it's all about. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future, hopefully, from Protokoll Brewery. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned, but hopefully not the last. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So yeah, just go in there, use the search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like in there. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, of course, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the German playlist, along with many other things, both new wave craft and kind of old school German traditional, because I love both types of German beers, I guess we could say, or both groups of German beers. But yeah, you can check out the playlist of beers from other countries in there as well. But it's been a wee while actually since I had a German West Coast IPA, so this will be quite exciting too. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Protokoll Brewery. So, Protokoll Brewery is essentially the contract brewing project of the Protokoll Beer Bar, which can be found in Friedrichshain in the eastern part of central Berlin. So the Protokoll company was founded back in 2017 by Vadim Kamkalov, who is originally from Russia, but he studied in Belgium at Leuven and then in Potsdam in Berlin before going to live and work in Hamburg and then Frankfurt before returning to the Berlin area. But one of the key figures in getting Protokoll started as well was Yvonne Poppendiecker, who lived above the Protokoll bar venue and used to frequent the rock bar that formerly occupied the premises. But very early on, she got involved in the company and has been with them ever since. But the Protokoll bar has 24 taps and focuses on a mix of American, Russian and both classic and new wave German beers. So they've got kind of 4 different directions that they take. I'm not sure how much they do with the Russian stuff anymore though. But Vadim actually had a relationship with the guys from Zagovor Brewery in Moscow, and he worked as head of their European business operations, basically the kind of head of European sales, up until the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. But these days, Vadim also has a second bar called Manifest, which is near Mall Park. This has 20 taps, and apparently this was formerly home to Stone Brewing's bar before they pulled out of Germany. But the Protokoll Brewery project started from very early on the bar's history. They were just brewing very, very small batches, but then they started officially releasing beer commercially, I guess you can say, in 2022, from what I understand. At least that's when the first beers are listed on the Untappd page. But there may well have been some before that, of course. But they contract brew their beers at different sites around Berlin. There are quite a few breweries in the city now that have capacity that could do that, but as of May 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 31 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And there were a good few styles in there, but quite a few of them were different kinds of IPAs and things like this. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Protokoll Brewery for the moment. Very, very new addition to the Berlin beer scene, like we said, and I guess this is a brewery that I will need to go and check out the next time I'm in Berlin. I'll need to go to the Protokoll bar and have a try of some of the things on tap there. That would be very, very nice. But yeah, that's that. So if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at this beer itself. So this one is a 440ml can, which is a little bit unusual for Germany. I think most of the craft breweries there tend to release stuff in either 330s or half litres. So yeah, 440 I think is a wee bit more unusual, but do correct me on that if I'm wrong, actually. But yeah, you can see pretty straightforward artwork there. You can see the Protokoll symbol on the top there, atomic number, and it tells you about the hops on the side of this one. So this one they say is a West Coast IPA, 6% ABV, and it's hopped with Sabro and Simcoe. So Sabro we know about 14 or 15% alpha acid, gives you this lovely big kind of mandarin-y orange note. Simcoe gives you a kind of nice juicy soft passion fruit actually. So yeah, Simcoe's about 12% alpha acid, both American hops like we said, and yeah, this should be pretty nice. I think I paid 57 Danish kroner for this one, so that's probably in the region of like €7.50 or something like that for the can. The Danish kroner is very strong these days, but like I said, this is another beer that I bought from Beer Hive in Amager in Copenhagen. This is one of the more random things. Like I say, I always get my Danish beers from them, but sometimes you find random things like this, which are quite interesting too. But yeah, 6% of this. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. I will point out incidentally before we taste this beer, this one is not going to be in the absolute freshest of conditions. I think Jessica and Nicolina got this one in before I went to Japan, a little bit before I went to Japan actually, and I never had time to go and pick it up before I went over there. So I think this beer, they had this in the shop back in about February or something, so I'm reviewing this one quite a wee bit later than when they actually got it in. But anyway, we'll see how we go with this. And I just wanted to introduce another new German brewery to you guys here on the channel in any case. But yeah, you can see this one's been in the fridge for a good wee while, quite a wee bit of sediment particle and stuff in it, but it's all natural, so we don't have to care too much about that, at least in my opinion. But yeah, let's have a wee look at this then. So you can see this beer has poured with about a finger of a kind of bumpy, I would say, but perfect white head. You can see there's some nice kind of foamy bubbles down toward the surface of the beer there, but it gets kind of more bumpy and gets bigger bubbles the further up the glass it goes. But you can see this one's one of the kind of brighter and more yellow West Coast IPAs that I've come across in recent times. You can see, I don't know how well you guys can see the sediment particles floating around in this one. You can just see that quite nicely here, but one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, then a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look very, very nice. Yeah, I like how this goes together. Quite interesting for sure. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a couple of things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will also affect the colour of your beer as well. But yeah, with IPAs you don't often have to care about that. But yeah, in terms of the colour of this one, like I say, this is a lovely, quite bright, almost German Helles type colour beer that we're getting out of this one. So this is definitely more a kind of mango, like a sort of mango yellow, pale golden straw type colour that you're getting out of this one. A little bit of natural haze to it, of course. Does this one? This one contains a little bit of wheat and oats as well, which is kind of interesting, because normally a West Coast IPA would contain only barley malt, but the haze, the kind of natural haze that you're getting in this beer, will probably be due to the presence of the wheat and the oats. So that's kind of interesting with this one, that they've put a little bit of oat and wheat in it, because usually that's one of the defining factors of a beer being a New England IPA. But they have stated specifically West Coast on this one. Could be a little bit of a misprint on the label right enough, but you never know. So Anyway, if we assume that this is a West Coast IPA, for me there are two kinds of West Coast IPAs, or I guess we can say two directions they can go. They can be more bready and biscuity, such as the Russian River Pliny the Elder, or they can be more along the lines of a kind of oily, caramelly sort of affair, such as the Sierra Nevada Torpedo. So yeah, this one, just going by the colour of it, I think this is going to be more of a kind of bready and biscuity type one, but we'll just need to see. But I think in terms of appearance, we've said everything we need to about this one. Let's have a wee look at the aroma and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Yeah, smells pretty nice actually. Still comes across as pretty damn fresh, even though it says on the back here this one was canned on the 20th of September 2022. So we're actually drinking this beer when it's about 8 months old. So this will be quite interesting from that perspective as well. And it says it's best before the 20th of June 2023, so it's still got about a month left on its sell-by, if you like. But this one should be quite nice. You can kind of tell the quality of this beer from the aroma is going to be pretty damn good. And of course, to survive in Germany as a craft brewery, you've got to do good stuff. Otherwise, yeah, people just won't buy your beer. There's so much choice. But yeah. So, first impression of this beer then, the first impression of this beer is that it's a lovely. You get a nice big kind of floral aromaticity out of this one right away. You've got quite a big green component to this, which is something you want from a West Coast IPA. West Coast IPAs always should have a bit of that deeper, more dank green component. You get a little bit of breadiness, you get a little bit of sweetness out of the malt base, and you've also got some nice big fruity characters. So we're off to a good start here. Let's break the aroma down though and just describe it a wee bit more in depth for you. So the backbone of the beer for me, you've got a lovely little bit of that fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. So you can feel that is absolutely the backbone of your beer. You do get a little element of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing coming out of this one. I'm really not sure how good a descriptor that is for Germans that might be watching this video, but yeah, there is a little bit of that Jacob's cream crackery type note coming out of this one, which I think is quite nice. So yeah, on top of the Jacob's cream cracker, you get this lovely kind of fresh, white bready character coming out of the beer. And I've said in many videos before, for me, German malts are always very distinct. Like whenever you try European brewed West Coast IPAs compared to the American ones, you know, it's usually German crystal and things like this that are used over here in Europe, whereas in America it's the type of two-row malts and things. So there is a bit of a difference in taste in these, but I love the breadiness that you get from German malts, the likes of Weirmann and companies like this. So you can smell that lovely, fresh, white bready kind of pale malt in this one, which is great. So yeah, lovely bit of fresh white bread in this one. Above that, you can smell a little bit of the wheat just smoothing out the bready character and densifying it, but you've got a little bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose with this one as well. I do have to admit, it's interesting with this one, because if I was smelling this blind and looking at it without having seen the ingredient list on this one, I probably would have guessed there would be wheat in this, but from the aroma, I don't think I would have got oats. There's a little bit of the kind of oaty smoothness in there, and a little tiny hint of creaminess, but I think I would have guessed this was a barley malt and wheat West Coast IPA, and those, you do get those, but like I say, West Coast IPAs for the most part are only barley malt, so that was an interesting point to be made about this particular beer. So yeah, on top of that, there isn't too much sweetness to this one actually. This really is more of a kind of bready affair rather than anything else. I mean, you have a little bit of there is a little touch of like a McVitie's digestive biscuity character coming out of this one. There's maybe a teeny little hint of a more concentrated biscuity brown sugar coming out of the beer, but otherwise it's quite otherwise, to be honest with you, it's actually quite mild in how it goes about its business. So yeah, it is mainly a kind of bready pardon me, character that comes out of this particular West Coast IPA. I think we have to say that. Yeah, not too much in the way of sweetness, but lots of kind of nice, fresh white bready character. I could sit and smell that all day. I love the smell of, the more bready varieties of German malt. But on the hoppy side of things then, let's have a wee look at this. So as I've mentioned in many reviews before, there are 3 kinds of hoppings you can use with IPAs. Let's take 90 minutes as the wort boil time to explain these. So usually, in the first hour of the wort boil, you'll have what is called early addition hopping. That gives you mainly bitterness. Basically, more heat extracts more chemicals from the hops, and that gives you that big, deep, dank, kind of piney, resiny character. And you'll find that in the aroma as well. You get a much deeper, danker aroma there. Within the last half hour of the wort boil, usually you have this thing that is called late addition hopping, which is gives you a little bit of bitterness, but mainly kind of flavour and aroma. And you can smell these. It always gives you this brighter floral aromaticity in the nose and in the flavour, of course. After the wort boil is complete, you've got dry hopping. This is all about flavour and aroma, no bitterness and things. So yeah, the way that the beer goes, the way that this beer kind of goes together, you can tell there's a little bit of all 3 going on in this one. It does have a little touch of that deeper, more dank quality to it, but it has more late addition and dry hopping going on, I think. So yeah, there's a wee touch of like a deeper kind of a deeper floral aromaticity coming out of this one, but you've also got that nice brighter floral aromaticity there as well, and you've got the nice kind of zesty, grassy character coming out of this one. I think it said on the Untappd page that one of the hops in this one was cryo. It's probably the Simcoe that's cryo, and that of course is going to give you, the cryo hops I find always give you a little bit of a wetter character to the green components in my mind. So yeah, nice kind of wet, grassy, floral kind of thing going on in this one. But yeah, I really like how this beer pieces together in that sense. Green component is very nice in this one, but it seems more like a kind of modern take on the West Coast IPA for sure. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, it is kind of what you'd expect if you know these 2 hops. There's a lot of soft passion fruit in there, and a little bit of mango and apricot and stuff, but mainly a passion fruit, and that's going to come from the Simcoe. You can smell that right at the front of the nose, and it's really, really nice. But beyond that, you start to get a little bit of a more kind of coconutty type character, and you also get some kind of, it's quite a soft, juicy, tangerine quality that you get out of the aroma of this beer, which is very, very interesting. So yeah, the way everything goes together in this beer, I think, is actually very, very nice. So it gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like this. I do like how that goes together. So, as I say, I get more and more of that kind of deeper floral aromaticity coming out of this one, the further into the nose that we go. But as I always say, take a wee bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one now and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the atomic number, beer number 18. I assume that's what it means, PB, Protokoll Brewery 018, guessing what that is. So number 18 beer, if I'm not mistaken, from Protokoll Brewery in Friedrichshain in Berlin, down in Germany. Atomic number, 6%, West Coast IPA. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, prost. Yeah, that's pretty damn nice. Now I'm going to say straight away, it's a very, very nice beer, this one. I like this. One thing I would say as a first impression is that this beer, it really does have that kind of German sessionability to it. It really drinks kind of like a pale ale. I think if I was given this beer blind, I would probably guess that it was some sort of pale ale. I don't know if I would pick out specifically that it's an IPA, but we have to remember that IPA, pale ale, double IPA, barley wine, these styles of beer are all related to each other through their malt to hop ratios. But yeah, this is an interesting one, and it does have I think this one, it's one of these ones I think that you would have to describe as being an American IPA. I don't know if I would describe this as an outright West Coast, because it's not quite clean enough, I guess we could say. It's not quite clean and oily enough in its mouthfeel. It has a wee bit more of that kind of bready, hazy type quality that you would expect of the New England side of things, but at the same time, it does have kind of the bitterness that you would expect of the West Coast side. So I think calling this one an American IPA rather than an outright West Coast IPA is probably a good thing, because the American IPA, as far as I am aware, is a term that was coined, as far as I'm aware, it was coined by, to be kind of in between the more oily and bitter West Coasts and the more hazy, kind of creamy New England. So this beer really is somewhere in the middle of the two, rather than being an outright West Coast, actually. And it will be the oats and the wheat that would do that. If I was going to say to them, if they want to do a proper West Coast IPA, you don't put oats and wheat in those. You just put barley malt. You just do it that way. And actually, one of the first West Coast IPAs that I tried from Germany, I'm sure that was from Berliner Berg Brauerei, actually. And that was really nice. That was a really big beast. I saw a couple of bottles of that the last time I was down in Berlin, actually. But yeah, that was a proper West Coast IPA. This one's definitely American, but still a very, very nice and drinkable beer. The quality of the beer isn't in question in this one. I would just say, like, calling it a West Coast IPA, I don't think is quite right in this case. But I do like the beer anyway, and that's the most important thing. But yeah, let's break this beer down and describe it a wee bit more in depth. So, middle third of your palate then, you've got that nice kind of fresh white bready bread crust forming the backbone of the beer. Further forward on that middle third of your palate, you've got a wee bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive, you've got a little bit more of a kind of crackery and woody character. Actually, it's not quite sweet enough to be McVitie's digestive, but yeah, you can feel that fresh white bready bread crust there, a little bit of a crackery, Jacob's cream crackery note there, and that actually comes out. The further into the aftertaste you go with this beer, that actually comes out a little bit more. The further into the aftertaste that you go, so that is actually quite interesting. I have to say that. Yeah. So, beyond that, we have, beyond that, I would say that we have a nice, on top of that, you've got a little touch of an almost there's a very slight touch of a wholemeal brown bready character in there, which is quite interesting. And then above everything else, you have a more kind of fluffy white bready layer, which I really like as well. Yeah. So yeah, the fluffy white bready character that comes out of this one is really quite nice, and that sort of dominates the the middle of your palate in this beer, in a sense. So you get that lovely fluffy but slightly sweet white bready character. It's got a good little bit of density to it as well, which is interesting. And then above that, you can feel the wheaty layer just densifying out the beer, and there are definitely some oats in this one. You can kind of tell that just in the middle third of your palate there. So above the wheat, like down the middle line of your palate, you've got a bit more of a, you've absolutely got a little bit more of a kind of creamy, oaty character there. So you can feel that just going down the middle line of your palate. Then as you spread out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit more of a, you do get a little bit more of a kind of oaty dryness in there, which I do quite like. So yeah, the way that goes together is really quite nice in a sense. And then above that, you can feel there's a little circle in the middle of your palate, like in the dead centre of your palate. That's where you get the more kind of concentrated biscuity type thing coming out of the beer, and you can feel that nice McVitie's digestive biscuity graininess as you go out toward the edge of the palate there. But overall, it's pretty nice actually. I like how this beer, I really do like how this beer pieces together. Yeah, the malty side of this one is really nice, but it's definitely more. The more that I drink of this one, it actually seems more and more New Englandy than it does West Coasty, to be honest with you. I would definitely say that. But regardless, it is a nice beer, and that's the main thing. So, that covers the middle third of the palate in the beer. Let's go to the back third of the palate then. But border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build-up in this one, which I think goes together really nicely. So yeah, nice little bit of bready build-up there. Then the base of that back third of the palate, you've got a lovely, you've got similar layers on that back third of your palate, but they just come out in different densities. So yeah, on that back third of the palate, you've got a nice kind of, I would say like a bit of a drier bread crust. As I've always said, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back on the palate, the sweeter flavours come out further forward. So you've got that more dry, grainy bread crusty character on the back third of the palate. Then you get a drier crackery note above that. Then you've got the wee bit of wholemeal brown bready character, which goes a little bit lighter and a little bit more airy, of course. And then above that, you have that more kind of, you've got a little bit more of that kind of fluffy, white bready character coming out of the beer in there too, which is great. I really like that. So yeah, you've got that more fluffy, white bready character coming out of this one too, which is very nice, and you can just feel it's lighter and more airy. But above that, you can feel the kind of wheaty layer just kind of creeping over the top of that back third of your palate there, and it just gives you that wee bit more wheaty bitiness, which is very, very nice. Yeah, so on top of that, you have a little bit of a kind of yeasty character for sure, so you can feel that kind of bready, yeasty type character coming out of the beer, which I think is very, very nice. And it's like a more farmhousey, woody, crackery type bread there. So you've got a little bit of honeycomb that just you've got a little touch of honeycomb that comes out of this one, which I think is really, really nice. Yeah, I do like how that goes together. Yeah, you've got this little bit of honeycomb wrapped bready sort of thing, but you can definitely feel that the back third of your palate, the flavour is a lot taller. Then as you come further forward, the middle third of your palate just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more, which I do really like. But let's move on to the hoppy side of things then. So, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness coming out of this one. So yeah, nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, you've got a little bit of herbal character, and as you push further forward toward the front corners of your palate, you've got more of a kind of floral aromatic sort of thing there. You can feel there's a nice little bit of depth to the floral aromaticity there, and there's a little bit of a kind of spicy floral aromatic note to this one. And then yeah, that does go together really nicely too. But round the front curve of the tongue, you've got a little bit of that lighter and more kind of grassy character coming out of the beer, which is really, really nice too. So yeah, the way it goes together, I think, is pretty nice in that sense. The green component is good. It's not too deep and dank. I think this beer is relying more on late addition and dry hopping rather than early addition hopping, but still, it comes across very nicely. Yeah, it's good stuff. So let's look at the border region, the front third of your palate, then the fruity side of the beer. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of that kind of bready build-up in this one, so you can feel that nice kind of fluffy white bready layer with a bit of brown bread underneath. The base of the front third of the palate, you've got a little bit more. You've got a little bit more of a kind of, I would say, you've got a little bit of the kind of bread crusty note in there, you've got a little bit of the cracker, then some brown and white bread above that, then you get that nice oily bubble above there where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that. So, the fruity side of this beer, it's really, really nice in that sense. So at the back of it's quite straightforward. If you know these hops, it won't be a surprise to you what you get out of this one. But at the back of that front third of your palate, there's definitely a nice kind of, there's a little bit of a stronger passion fruit, but it really mellows out as you come further forward, and as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, it's got like an apricot-y and kind of papaya-like vibe to it. But as you move further forward into the front half of that front third of your palate, the base of the front half of the front third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of kind of coconut in there. You've got a little bit of a kind of, yeah, and above that you've got a little bit of a more mandarin-y, orangey type character, which is the sabro. So the back half of the front third of your palate is all about the Simcoe and the softer tropical notes, but then yeah, the front half of your front third of your palate it's got the coconut and the more kind of mandarin-y oranges that you would have from the sabro. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah, I like how this one pieces together, so it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, fruity side of the beer, I should add, is also kind of oily as well, and you get a wee bit of zestiness the further into the aftertaste you go too, but very, very nice beer, this one. Yeah, I really like how this goes together, actually. It's really nice stuff. So, on the mouthfeel side of things, I think we said everything we need to about the flavour of this beer. And as I say, it drinks like a kind of New England pale ale. This one, it's very, very easy to drink, but it really leans more toward the New Englandy side of things. It has a wee touch more bitterness to it. But this is more a New England IPA rather than anything else, to be honest with you. Drinks like a New England pale ale though. But yeah, let's round off with the mouthfeel. For me, it's quite a low bitter. The mouthfeel overall, I'd say that it's kind of right in the middle of the spectrum. It's mid-bodied, the carbonation is smooth, it does have a wee bit of a prickle to it, but like I say, a very kind of clean and easy to drink beer, this one. It's very nice in that regard. The IBU count, I think, is maybe about 30 or 40 IBUs, which is more in line with the New England style than it is the West Coast. You would expect a West Coast IPA, even a modern one, to have about 50 or 60 IBUs. The old school ones always had about 80, 90, 100 IBUs in a sense. So this is quite a low bitterness take on the style. The malt base, like we said, has a little bit of dryness to it, a little bit of smoothness, and there's a wee bit of sweetness in there as well. And you've got some lovely kind of juicy, fruity characteristics coming out of this one as well. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really very, very nice. So yeah, I like this one. I really do like how this goes together. It's a very, very nice IPA, and it does certainly make me quite curious to try more beers from these guys. And the next time I'm in Berlin, I will try and make sure that I remember to go and have a wee look at the Protokoll tap room in Friedrichshain. I'll need to see exactly where they are. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was the Atomic Number, a 6% IPA, beer number 18 from what I gather in their inventory. And I thought this was really good. I would love to try some more stuff from these guys. But yeah, the only thing I would say is that this one really doesn't strike me as much of a West Coast IPA. I think you could call it an American IPA, but it really leans a little bit more toward the New England type thing, and in that regard it's quite like a New England pale ale actually, but still very nice beer. That's the main thing, and I would love to try a few more from these guys. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Protokoll Brewery as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But yeah, this is really, really nice actually. Yeah, been impressed with this. So check out my social media, check out theirs. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next review. Sláinte, skål, and cheers.